This is the last and final session, but as Bernard has indicated, he's very excited about it. We are very excited about it because this will conclude the day's proceedings, and my brief is to be as brief as possible. So, from my right-hand side, Louise van Rhijn, the founder and CEO of Symphonia. We've known each other for a long time. Gavin, Ellis, do I have to say, this is ABSA here. He represents ABSA. Joany-Ann Campher, all the way from Newcastle in KZN, and Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman from the Gift of the Givers. Welcome to this panel. We certainly look forward to what you have to say and to share with us in terms of giving back. I just want to say that all of us have got individual talent. And as Bernard has said, we all have something to give. What we are here for this afternoon is to hear from these distinguished and extraordinary South Africans to share with us why and how they give and what impact that has within the communities and or in the society that they work. Louise, you are closest to me. Share with us what is it that you do, why is it that you do what you do, and what's the impact?
I'll do that, and I'm going to issue an invitation. So this is very much my invitation to everybody in this room to get involved in this project. So I'm a leadership development person, business leader, have no knowledge or, well, I didn't used to have any knowledge or understanding about education, but I felt compelled to do something about education. So 6 years ago, I started a process. It's now happening around the country. There are about 500 schools involved now, where business leaders, like all of us in this room, become a co-learning, co-action partner to a school principal. Because what we realized is that the difference between schools that work and schools that struggle is two things. One is the school principal, who typically in the schools that work have been equipped for their task. And the other is that there's a strong community of people who contribute with things like HR, IT, finance, all that stuff. And the reality is that we have lots and lots and lots of business people who have knowledge and skills to share. This is not an adopt a school program, because the principal said to us, you adopt puppies and babies, you do not adopt principals and schools. So they said, please can you partner with us? So we've developed a program where there's 260 different organizations already across the country who are involved, where business leaders sign up to learn about leading in complex environments by working with the school principal. And in doing so, their lives change, the school principal get new energy, and so we're really looking for chambers of commerce and organizations around the country to say, what skills do we have in our community? We just this morning there was a long conversation in PE. We've got people in Newcastle who are interested, in George, in Lepelale, in Sanine. So the beautiful thing is it's not something we can only need to do in large cities. We can do it around the country and get the business leaders in the business community to support school principals by sharing knowledge, skills, bring available skills from the community into those schools.
Thank you very much. Gavin, if you could follow on to that. In the previous session, I dare say that the spotlight was somewhat on big corporations and what they do and or don't do. And sometimes we are ignorant or not knowledgeable enough about what the respective organizations are doing. Share with us how ABSA, Barclays, gives back.
Thanks, Ernest. Yeah, so we have a program within our citizenship area called Shared Growth, which was launched earlier this year by Maria Ramos in the annual presentation. And it's taken the citizenship or corporate social responsibility philosophy in a different movement, if I can put it that way. In that, the philosophy is that we should teach people how to fish rather than give them a fish. And corporate social responsibility, to a large extent, has just been, let's open the checkbook, let's give it. We appease our hearts and minds, and we've done our thing. And we've said we want to actually change that whole thing and say, how do we make a difference so that shared growth is about how do we profit and grow not just Barclays and ABSA, because at the end of the day, we're a business, but the communities in which we operate in. At the end of the day, we need to make a positive impact on the communities that we operate in. So we have a 3-pillar approach under the shared growth program. And one is around education and skills. And it falls within what some of the stuff that Louise has been talking about. But Maria Ramos has committed 1.4 billion rand over the next 3 years into this program. So there'll be a combination of raising funds through the bank, but also through partnerships and so on. But what are these programs underneath this? So one is a Ready to Work program. So Ready to Work is about saying, and there's a funky music video advert that's on the TV that you might see at some stage, but it's about, we have a free online education and skills training curriculum out there for people at school, people at colleges, people at universities to say, how do you make the transition from education into work? Because many people in this room will say, you get a graduate and you have to teach him all over again, okay? So we are saying we have got 16,000 people registered on this program at the moment. The aim by the end of this year, very big goals, is to get 250,000 people registered onto this program. But it's not just online. There are also workshops that we hold with people. And Louise asked me earlier, what is my contribution into this thing? So we are encouraged at ABSA and Barclays to register as mentors onto this program. So I'm registered a mentor, and anybody on this program can go in and say, hello, Gavin, I'd like to talk to you. Okay? So we think that that's adding value. But it's not just to the young people. It's also for entrepreneurs to say, how do they succeed in business? How do they start a business? So we've got that process there as well. We also have adopted TVT program.
Partner with.
Yeah. So it's supporting and training to principals and their staff. We go into not just TVTs, but there's schools. There's a program going on there as well that we provide training there. And it also creates workplace exposure to the learners there as to what it looks like when you come into work, so before they get out there. The other thing under this pillar is around scholarships. We will be providing, the aim is to give 250 scholarships during the course of this year into next year for deserving candidates. And also university support. So what do we mean by that? So what we mean by that is that we will support in areas because they're going to put a council together and look at certain areas where university research is needing funding. We will provide funding into that as well. So that's the one pillar. And I'm just going to do another. The other pillar is about financial services and how do we include people in that. But the other one is an enterprise development pillar. And here we have enterprise development centers around the country. During the course of last year, they provided mentorship, incubation, and other services to 25,966 entities. Be that people wanting to start a business or people already in a business. We say to them if they want a meeting room, and we provide that type of service as well. The aim this year is to increase that to 30,000. The other one in a previous, I think in the previous panel, it says how do big businesses open up their value chains and their supply chains to small businesses? And at the end of the day, we need to be able to say how do we get small businesses to come into the Barclays and ABSA procurement channel to be able to become a supplier into Barclays. So we have a portal where 42,000 small businesses are registered at the moment. We have 6,000 corporates registered on that on that portal, and there are about 2 billion rands worth of tenders advertised on a monthly basis through that process. So it's not just Barclays that are advertising, but there's other corporates as well. So I encourage you guys that if you have businesses yourself, go onto to our website, see how you can get loaded onto that procurement portal. And then lastly, I think is we've also set up a fund, and we've earmarked 250 million rand this year, and it's a small amount. But sometimes you have to pay a bit of school fees to learn a little bit. So we've earmarked 250 million rand to lend into SMEs that wouldn't normally qualify according to our bank lending criteria. To say, so how do we learn from that and grow there? So that, in a nutshell, is what we are trying to do as a shared growth program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll ask you to perhaps elaborate on some of it. The questions started to come in, but before I handle the questions, I'm going to give each panelist a moment to say what it is that they do. Joany-Ann, Campher.
Thank you, Dr. Messina. The reason why I sit in this chair is because I had a dream. And the reason why I joined the Afrikaanse Handelsinstituut, the Newcastle Sakekamer, is because of that dream. Now, last year, during our end-year function in Newcastle, I met Dr. Messina, and he had a speech on making a difference. So I went up to him and I told him about my dream. I'm a math teacher, very passionate math teacher. But I had a dream of helping kids in the rural areas. I'm the owner of Mickey Maths Newcastle, Ladysmith and Volksrust. And what we do at Mickey Maths is we enable kids from a young age, from 3 years old, to fall in love with maths. Now, I've really enjoyed the sentence where you said, we must teach our kids how to fish. And that's what I do. That's my job. And unfortunately, there's lots of kids that can't afford the fees for extra tuition and for maths classes. And yeah, after a few months with Dr. Messina on the phone and talking to a lot of business people, we already are busy now helping 200 kids in our township outside Newcastle, also Joany, where we help them with free education every day in maths. And yeah, that's the reason why I'm here.
Thank you very much. The gift of the givers. Imtiaz, please.
I'm a medical doctor by profession, but I gave it up in 1994 because in August 92, I met a spiritual teacher in Istanbul. It was a Thursday night, 24 years ago, and he just said to me, my son, I'm not asking you, I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name will be in Arabic, Waqf al-Waqifin, translated, meaning gift of the givers. You will help all people of all races, of all colors, of all classes, of all religions, of all colors, of all cultures, of any geographical location, and of any political affiliation. But you will help them unconditionally. You will not expect anything in return, not even a thank you. In fact, in what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, expect to get a kick up your back. If you don't get a kick up your back, regard that as a bonus. Sure. Serve people with love, with kindness, with compassion, and mercy. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. If somebody is down in the ground, don't push them down further. Hold them, lift them up, and raise them. To wipe the tear of a child is a blessing. It's free. To caress the head of an orphan, to say words of good counsel to a widow, to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, and to provide water for the thirsty is all a part of your job. And again he said, remember the dignity of men. And then he said, this is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. And remember that whatever you do will be done through you and not by you. It's a spiritual calling. And then he said, whatever you do, be the best at what you do. Not for ego, but because you're dealing with human life and human suffering and human emotions and human endeavor. And immediately the organization was formed, and our first project was the war in Bosnia. I mean, who starts off with a thing like that? But he said in everything, you will know and you will be shown the way. And really for 24 years, I've been shown the way. The kind of things that I do is not humanly possible. It's obviously a hand that's helping you and doing things to you. I mean, we are in South Africa. The world's first containerized mobile hospital was designed in South Africa by us, but an Afrikaner company in Pretoria, Afrit van der Wetering Engineering. We did it together, and we took it from Africa to Europe. The world's only one up to today, nobody has matched it. And in the 24-year history, we've delivered 2 billion rand worth of aid to 42 countries. We are the most unique disaster agency in the world. No agency in any country matches us, because we don't have only primary healthcare teams. We have primary healthcare, trauma, post-op rehab, trauma counseling, search and rescue teams, sniffer dogs. We build houses. We provide supplies, tents, blankets, water. It's the most complete team in the world. Right now, I have representation in Malaysia. We were the only agency in the world, in Africa, invited to come to Malaysia to a disaster conference. We were the only ones invited to present from Africa. And immediately after the presentation, they asked us to do a second presentation on the spot. They asked us to chair a session, and they asked us to be a judge of all the disaster teams in place, right through the night, last night, and this morning. So I say in Africa, we can do it. Disaster is only one aspect. We run 20 other types of projects, which makes us unique again. Some people focus on an orphanage, or maybe medical teams, or search and rescue. We do education to schools, we do bursaries, entrepreneurship, job creation, medical support, food parcels, feeding schemes, winter warmth.
Testing 1 2.
You can't cope.
It is so intense. Please carry on. I'm sure.
Life skills, you know, what's the name? Life skills counseling. So there's 21 different categories of projects we do. Some are pure handouts. A food parcel is a handout, yes, but in many cases it saves lives. In Somalia, when we went in, 10,000 children were dying a day from famine. We took in medical teams, you know, in where Al-Shabaab and fighting was taking place, and we went in and we saved thousands of lives with our medical teams from South Africa. In Syria, we crossed the border illegally. I told the government, it's a war zone, we're not getting permission to enter, I will cross that border illegally. Not only did we cross it illegally, we filmed it and we showed it to the whole world. Although the government said, don't do that, when we came back, they passed a motion of commendation in Parliament for us entering Syria. And we set up a hospital in the war zone. We put up a second one. They tried bombing the hospital. They tried bombing us. We serve 15,000 patients a day. We're busy looking at a third hospital. And basically, whatever we do, we save life in every country that we get involved in. So this is a summary of the kind of things that we do.
No, thank you very, very much for giving us that insight. And for those of you who don't know and who hasn't Googled Gift of the Givers, Dr. Sooliman is from Pietermaritzburg. I have a question for you from the audience. Dr. Sooliman, what was the biggest challenge to decide to leave everything behind and to focus on gift of the givers only?
When you get spiritual inspiration, when you look at a spiritual teacher, when you look at his face, and when you make the spiritual connection, and you feel the confidence in what he's saying, it's a kind of blessing, a kind of calmness that descends on you, that you're making the right decision. And I explain this a little further. I don't know this man. By the way, I got introduced to him through an Afrikaner in Pretoria.
Really?
Yes. He met the teacher before my teacher, who passed on in '85. And he met him in America. He came to Maritzburg to teach French in the university. He needed a doctor. He met somebody and they recommended him to me. I treated him and he told me about this place in Turkey. And when I went in '91, I met a teacher. Now the strange thing about this teacher is when I walked inside there, I saw people of all religions. Jews, Christians, Muslims, people, Hindus, people who said they don't believe in God, Americans, Russians, everybody. In a place when the world was very, the Gulf War had taken place. The world was insecure. They were talking about the clash of civilizations between the East and the West, polarization of civilizations, conflict between groups. And here I saw all these different countries, all different religions, in a very harmonious getting together, you know, with no friction between them. And I looked at the teacher and I was a little confused. And he said, my son, what do you see? I said, I see diverse people in a Muslim holy place. What's going on? He said, what you see is right. He said, mankind is one single nation. The God of all mankind is one. We only call him by different names. And then he went on to say, any rabbi, imam, sheikh, priest, pandit, no matter what book he's carrying, no matter his external paraphernalia, but if he promotes violence, extremism, conflict, the taking of life, discord and disorder, is not a man of God. Don't follow him. And any person who promotes love, kindness, togetherness, understanding, and humanity is a man of God. Following him. When you get that kind of teaching, when you see people of different cultures sitting peacefully, when the world can't get it right, something has to be right. So if the man says, do it, without any fear, I said, yes, I will do it. And he said, it's an instruction for you for the rest of your life. It's a decision I don't regret, and I haven't made a mistake, and I'll do this. You can give me $100,000 an hour in the corporate world. I'll say, thank you very much, keep your money.
Thank you very much for that response. And talking about big books, Ben, you had indicated in the previous session, you must give in order to receive. And I'm pretty sure these four people and all of you, most of you, who do give in one way or another, receive. Gavin, I have a question here from the audience to you. How can we get these workshops to the countryside?
So the ready to work workshops or the...
It didn't specify, yeah,
okay.
but some of the workshops you've been talking about.
Okay, so I mean, ABSA is within South Africa, and this Ready to Work initiative is around the continent. It's in 8 different countries around the continent as well. So it's not just in South Africa. So each ABSA branch knows about the Ready to Work initiative. So my suggestion to the audience is make contact with your ABSA representatives in whichever town, city you are, and talk to them about it. And if they don't know about it, say to them, but then they must get hold of Gavin, Ellis, and we'll chat about it, and then we'll take it from there. Because at the end of the day, we all know about it. We see it regularly. Within the organization, there are TV programs around it and so on. So it's an advertised initiative that the bank is doing. So everybody should know about it. I understand that some people might not necessarily be as into it as what they should be, if I can put it so. But at the end of the day, unless we as an audience, and I say an audience, but as a community out there, if we don't press in to whoever has these opportunities and initiatives, then they're just going to be wasted. So we need to press in, and we need to say to the people, come on, I want to talk about Ready to Work. How do we do these things together?
Oftentimes, proverbially, we sit on the gold and we don't know, or the issue is about access to information, not so. And today, we are really privileged to get this firsthand. I have more questions, and it would be really great to hear that we end on a very positive and a very high note, inspired, leaving this conference here today. If you don't necessarily pose questions, but perhaps also, if you are not that modest, to share with the rest of us how you are giving and what you are giving. Thank you, Louise. Okay. Here is a question again to you, Dr. Sooliman. How is this massive good work financed?
That's normally the first question. It's not from the corporates. It's generally from the public. Over the years, it has grown from mass public support. Ordinary people, 500 Rand, 1,000 Rand, 1,000 Rand. In recent years, yes, the corporates have started to come. ABSA is one of them. Some of the other banks have come. It comes in cash and in kind. The last few years, our biggest donor in kind is Unilever. We receive about 30 million Rand worth of supplies a year. Procter & Gamble has been coming, Nestle has been coming, and now Bolan Pulp in Cape Town, the serious people, the Rhodes Juice people, they recently, we find more and more people coming, a lot of stuff in kind. Cash mostly has been from ordinary people, and of course from the Muslim community. It's across, it's not only Muslims, but because of the Islamic teaching that God is not in need of your prayer if you don't care for fellow men, there's a mandatory tax that you have to pay towards charity work. And because people know their obligation, we don't have to look for money. We actually don't do fundraising. We don't look for money. We don't have collectors on the road. We don't have paid advertising. We get media coverage. We don't actually solicit funds. We don't go to anybody. And we have people in queues waiting to give us money. The other guys that give us money are medical personnel, because they've been on our missions with us. They see what we do. We fund the whole team. Even a guy is a multi-millionaire as a doctor, we don't take money from him for the mission. We pay his total cost, because he leaves his practice and he comes and he loses 7 days or 10 days of business. But what they do when they come back, they calculate what the trip cost and they put the money in our account without telling us. And also some of them lose 50 or 60,000 in a day, depending on the type of special practice there is. They lose that money, they donate the value of the trip, and over and above that, they still give a donation to us. Okay. Other means of income are all the young guys in the corporate world, working in all ABSA, Netbank, Vodacom, MTN, kind of guys. They have a salary, okay, at the end of the year, I have to pay the taxman so much, I got so much left over, these are my expenses. Okay, from here, I pay my religious tax, and over and above that, I'll give another 20 or 30,000 Rand. And that's how the money comes.
Okay. Sure. Thank you very much for answering that. I trust it has been answered, the person who posed the question. Here's a question to each of the panelists. And in part, I think some of you have answered the question. Louise, starting with you. How do I get involved? Simply, how do I get involved?
Yeah. So we're working on the assumption that every business leader in the country, every person in the country, can potentially contribute in some way to an under-resourced school. The difference between schools that work and schools that struggle is schools that work are typically supported by a whole group of adults who bring HR, IT, finance, sports, chess, music, lots of different skills. In the schools that struggle, there are very few adults who show up. So the one thing is that this is not about charity as much as it's about co-learning, contribution. When you go into school with an open mind to learn from that community rather than being the charitable handout giver, because this is how we're going to heal our nation. So in our case, our website, pfp4sa.org, is quite descriptive about if you're a business leader and you want to partner with a principal. If that's not the role that you want to play, then we would encourage you to make yourself, go and offer your service at a local school. Tell them what your skills are. If you know about HR, IT, finance, chess, netball, whatever it is, we do not, most of our efforts in this room go to the well-resourced schools. That's not where the need is as much. The need is in the under-resourced schools.
So it's education, 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 education in a different form perhaps, but it's education. Gavin?
Yeah, so if people want to know how does ABSA get involved with you or your chambers, so one way is to get hold of your local ABSA branch people, or if you don't want to do that, send me an email. My email address is very easy, gavin.ellis@absa.co.za, and then tell me what you actually would want to know or whatever, and we will try and facilitate that for you. Tasneem Dokrat is one of my team here. She's sitting in the audience, and she'll help me source whoever we need to source to say how to, it might be a simple thing that you want to get loaded onto the procurement portal, and you want to know how to do that. We'll put you through the steps there and tell you how to do that. If you want us to come and talk to your chambers, we're quite happy to do that as well. Let me know, and then we can, do some road trips or whatever, and come and talk to your chambers about some of the projects. Quite happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Joany-Ann, you are out in Newcastle, but South Africa could learn from you, get involved. How do people get involved?
I think days like today, especially, this is a good thing happening. I enjoyed where you said we have to heal our country. And the only way to heal your country is to start with the small kids, and that's where we are working with, what we are working with. But I think days like today, it causes people from different places in the world to hear about a girl from Newcastle who's a teacher, and she's got 200 kids that is getting free education every day. And obviously we have more dreams, and we don't want to reach only 200 kids. We want to reach 2 million kids. And and of course, if you would like to get involved in our project, you can always go onto the RI's website or Mickey Matt's website and get involved like that. I just want to share some scary statistics quickly. 1 million kids enroll in grade 1 every year. Out of that 1 million kids, only 37% have exposure to preschooling, and that is 370,000 kids. So when you get to matric, those kids that enrolled in grade 1, they are only 500,000. Out of that 500,000, only 70% passes matric at the end. So that's roughly about 350,000. And if you look at the 370,000 who had preschooling exposure, and you look at that 350,000 at the end of matric, it correlates a lot. So that is why it's so important to start as young as 3 years old and to give them that exposure. Most kids in our rural areas, when they go to school, the first time that they touch a pencil or a piece of paper is when they are enrolled in grade 1. And please get involved at your local schools and at the creches especially. The preschools, they do it well, and they give good education to the kids. But the creches, South Africa is full of small creches where the kids are dropped off at the school, they just play outside in the sun, and they don't actually get taught anything. And I think every person can get involved. And then the one thing that you inspired me with was when you said you were instructed to do this for life. And I think if you do something like this, you can't do it only for a year or two. You have to commit yourself for life. And that's the main thing. When you get involved. And go and think about that. And don't just start and say, I'm going to do something good to feel good about myself. It's almost Christmas. Please don't do that. We need people who's involved for a long term. Especially when we start with these 3-year-old people, we need them up to matric. We want to see that results. So please help us. We need it.
Wow, that's so profound.
Well done.
I see that you have been recognized worldwide, Gift of the Givers, with, among other, 107 different awards. But I'm pretty sure, I almost want to take it for granted that some people here in the audience heard today for the first time about Gift of the Givers. How do we get involved?
That's a very difficult thing with us. You know, a lot of people ask, how can you get involved with us? We are very, very specific about what we do. We're very fussy. Like volunteers want to join us. And I tell them, you know what? Volunteers say, I'm coming Monday morning, 9 o'clock, and suddenly 8:30 you got a dentist appointment. And they don't turn up because there's no obligation to come. So I'm very strict about the time. I have staff who are skilled. Our specialty is speed. You know, we can move. For example, we did something with Vodacom for Mandela Day. 24 hours before the event, they suddenly realized they were short of getting the movement done. In 24 hours, we packed 30,000 hampers, moved it to Cape Town, Joburg, Pietermaritzburg, Durban, Umhlanga, Newcastle, Limpopo, Polokwane, and Nelspruit, and did the distribution in 24 hours. You know, it's that kind of infrastructure we have. But why do we have that? Because we have skilled staff. When I say skilled staff, these are not guys with degrees. They're not guys who went to university. These are ordinary people who've trained in our system. So I don't have volunteers as such. We have full-time paid people who can do things in their sleep because it's a repetitive action, and they know exactly how we do. So that doesn't help. Where we have volunteers is in 2 levels or 3 levels. One, through our counselors. We have counselors on the phone that deal with counseling, marital problem, drug problem, abuse problem, kid has got attention deficit disorder, you know, other kinds of issues. So we have trained counselors that operate from our phone line in Pietermaritzburg. It's a toll-free line, so people can phone in. That's why we have volunteers. The third category of volunteers is the medical teams and the search and rescue teams. They are highly specialized people. You know, even you can be a doctor and you can be a search and rescue personnel. There's no guarantee you will join my team. Your temperament, your attitude, your interrelationship with different religions, different cultures, how you deal with each other, how you're going to react when a bomb falls outside the hospital, all those kind of things are important. So the volunteers are a very important specialized skills, search and rescue and medical and trauma counseling. And you know, trauma counselor is also on a mission. Those are kind of things that we do. Okay. The projects that we design, like I say, you pay 250 million rand school fees for experience. We design our own projects. We've designed the world's first soya groundnut and high energy supplement. It's the world's first designed by us. It works in HIV, in cancer, in AIDS, in TB. It's not a cure, but it's supplementation. We designed it. The hospital we designed was the world first. We designed the world's first containerized primary healthcare unit, which we put all over the country and other parts of Africa. So a lot of things we do on our own. For example, after the fire in Khayelitsha in 2013 January, we decided, okay, we're going to put our own houses on. Took a house, I told my staff exactly like that, in Cape Town office, take a house, build it, and break it down. Start again, break it down. Keep experimenting. See what is the best cost, best efficiency, fireproof, fire resistant, cool in summer, warm in winter, and we kept on doing that. Eventually we did it there, but we advanced on that model, and in Alexandra, we built a whole housing village. ABSA sponsored some of those houses too. Okay. Right? And it was Vodacom, ABSA, and some others. And we put a unique village that even Murray and Roberts came to see what we did in Alex. So to answer your question, how you can help us, you can support us financially is one of the ways, because the programs, we are very specific. And we tell you to look at the program. If you don't like it, don't give us your money. It's as simple as that. And you know, you see what we do, and it's quality in everything we do. It's a lot of time and attention. We take a lot of time. 21 projects, but we're not done at one time. We run one project, we specialize in it, 2 years later we do the next one, then the next one, and we're highly skilled in each one that we do. But you can promote us through social media, through your Twitters, your emails. You highlight the things that's close to your heart. You don't have to highlight everything. But what you like, you support, you promote that. Okay.
If you don't like his program, we will take the money. We need it.
Now that is an entrepreneur. I have a question, and it's not necessarily directed to any of the panelists. It reads as follows. There are so many charity organizations in South Africa. Many are struggling to be sustainable as the broader economy has also impacted negatively on their future. To which type of charities would business like to contribute and make a difference?
So can I answer that?
Why not?
So one of the things that we found really interesting is when we had this idea that business leaders could contribute, we realized that we needed to make this an attractive proposition for business leaders. So it doesn't feel it's just one way. And Nedbank, I'm going to use that one example out of the 260, was one of the first organizations that said, actually, you know what? Working in education, and specifically working in school, might help us achieve our vision. Nedbank's vision is to be the most admired bank in Africa. Maybe if we spend more time in schools and in communities, we could do that. That's the first thing. The second thing they said is, well, actually, we've looked at our business, our leadership development programs, and we've been spending all this money with business schools. And our leaders are not really learning how to be leaders by going to business school. But when the leaders go into a school in Khayelitsha, they learn about leadership. So now we're achieving our vision. We are able to learn about leadership. We can spend the money more effectively. So for me, that's what this, and ultimately the reality is that if we don't fix our education system, we will not have staff who can do the work, and we will not have customers who will be able to buy our services. So it's, if business can choose not to get involved, and we're going to feel the pain. And the question that I always ask myself is, what are we going to say to our children? Because if this country burns, which is where we're going if we don't fix it, then our children, you know, I'm not sure that it's going to wash to say, you know, I was really busy doing all this other stuff, and I knew what I had something to contribute, but I didn't because I waited for Zuma to fix education. That's a tough one.
So I think it's a tough space to be in an NGO charity organization right now. I think that corporates, and I speak from a large corporate perspective, they've got their own challenges around budgets and so on. And you know, earlier there was a talk about big business and so on. Big business is getting smaller. There's no doubt about it. So things are shrinking. So what we encourage people within in ABSA, and we've got close to 35,000 people across the continent, is that part of their balanced scorecard, one of the things that we ask them to do is around citizenship. So is to create little programs where they can make the difference in their community. So for argument's sake, in a team next to us in head office, the one lady is collecting books. She's already collected 238 books for preschool and you know, grade R and grade 1 children, because she's got a passion about that. So I think that, you know, the charity stuff becomes a bit difficult from a perspective of just giving money. But where we can encourage people to make a difference and go into their communities and say, how can they give time? So, for arguments, you know, an orphanage in the community might need their building painted. How can we go in and help them do that? So we give time as well as, you know, the raw materials, etc., to do that. I think, as I said, I think charity work in organizational space is very difficult at the moment. Well,
difficult, but not impossible. No. I think that's what we, among others, say. I have one of the final questions. And yeah, by the way, we do have representatives from corporates around the room. Vodacom is here, and Santam is here, and Sanlam is here, Exaro is here, Autowins, of course, how can we miss them? And Cullinan Diamond Mine is here. And I'm really mentioning it because these are, and business partners, of course, these are corporate members of the AHI. And one of the things following on from what you've been saying is that we have, in the past year, really been trying to foster and cement the relationship between the AHI, the corporates, so that there is more understanding. But I'm not a panelist. That was actually a commercial break, Ainsley, for you and Jan there, among other. The final question I have here, is there a cost to you, Louise? Is there a cost for the partnership?
Absolutely. So when we started it, we didn't have a cost. We said to a whole group of people, you just go do some good things in a school. And it was disastrous. And we realized that we needed to build a support structure. So Exaro, as an example, wanted to work with 18 of these schools in and around Lepelale. And they knew that they couldn't just say to 18 Exaro people, go do something in the schools. They needed guidance. They needed support. They needed to know what to focus on. And in order to do that, we needed to employ people in Exaro. It's still far cheaper than going to business school, but there is a cost because we don't want to be a charity. We don't want to be standing, begging, waiting for money to come. We want to offer people a service in a frugal, innovative way that they are willing to pay because they can see the impact. And that's why 500 principals, 500 partnerships around the country have been supported by Santam, Sanlam, Exara, all these companies, Vodacom that you mentioned in the room.
Fantastic. And I will take that as your final remark. Gavin, half a minute, your final remark.
So final remark that it builds on from the philosophy where I said that, you know, we need to teach people to fish, and we need to transfer knowledge and skills. You know, a bunch of us are getting older and we've got the knowledge and skills, and the youngsters coming up need that. And I use the analogy of a candle. If you take a candle and you light another candle, that first candle's light doesn't get dimmer, and so on and so on and so on. And you get more light as you go on. And I think that we need to embrace that concept more, because we can't sit here as a country, as a community or whatever, and say, well, I've got all the knowledge and skills and I'm not going to share it. We've got to get out there and share. And if we do that, I think that we can lift the whole country accordingly. And I mean, there's great programs going on all over.
Thank you very much. Joany-Ann, in 30 seconds.
The last thing I would like to say is, all of you here are business people, you all got businesses. I think the main thing is to get involved in something that's going to change your future, your grandchildren's future. And the way to do that is to make sure that when you support someone like us, make sure that what we do is something that's going to give exposure to his child. It's going to give him an opportunity, because I think the two main ingredients for any successful person is exposure and opportunities. And yeah, and get involved. Don't just sit there. My first words after we have been to e-lollipop, the creche, and we have delivered all the materials and the t-shirts and all the maths books, and we have trained all the educators that's going to do the classes, was I haven't lived until today. So I think that when you give, you know how it feels to actually live. Thank you.
And the last word to you, Imtiaz.
People in the world, wherever we go, are looking for hope. Hope is positive. It builds self-esteem. It builds your mind. It makes you fight. If you have no hope, no matter how strong you are, you will collapse. And to me, I always put it this way. What would you do, or how would you want somebody to respond to you if you were in a situation in which other people are? If you have been shot, you've got no food, you are dying. I mean, we go to countries and we see, we go into the house, into the hut. Not only is there's no fridge, no stove, no bed, no blanket, no mat. They'll sleep on the cold floor, no clothing, no heating, nothing. There's no milk for the baby, but besides no milk for the baby, the mother herself doesn't have breast milk to give the baby. She cannot stand on her own. You see people like that, and you think, if I was in that situation, what would I expect the world to do? Would you have diverse skills here. You can apply your mind. How would you want to do? Would you want to educate somebody? Do you want to support somebody? Do you want to teach somebody? Do you want to give money? Do you want to give a car? Do you want to put somebody to university? It's your own choice. But remember, how do you want somebody to respond to you? You should respond to somebody in that manner.
Thank you so much. A panel of heroes, as I promised you, a panel of heroes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Whilst our heroes don't now walk away with our microphones, our heroes.
Oh, definitely not.
I need to wrap this up so that we can finish on time. I want Marita and her team, including Leandre, to please come stand here next to me. I want to thank you. Come here, quickly.
Oh, they're coming. Yeah, no.
Every single one of these ladies are also heroes. You know, when a program runs smoothly, somebody gets the credit, and it's never the right people. So I am so proud to be associated with this day, and it is because of you. So take your glory. You can now go do your jobs, I need to thank every single person who sat on a panel, and especially our panel leaders. I think you will agree with me, this was good value for money. I leave tonight with a changed view of the issues we face, the challenges we face. And if I scripted this day, I would have liked to end with a message of hope. Now, if you can see hope in Bosnia, I mean, whatever challenges we face is not quite like that. So I think, thank you, perhaps all our panelists and all of our panel leaders. Thank you very much for your participation. I need to share with you two little bits of information, and then the people in good standing will go to the AHI and do the proceedings of the AGM. The two things I want to share with you is Professor Adam Habib is also going to be with us tonight, because we want to be topical. He's going to come with some battle scars. He now knows what it feels to be kicked in the balls and smacked through the face. The academic world is tough. He's going to share with us, we're going to have a very brief conversation with him about how it is to be at the sort of bleeding edge of society's challenges. So that will be a short conversation tonight. I personally am looking forward to that, because there are some people in tough positions fighting battles on our behalf of our kids and our future. And then literally half an hour ago, Trevor Manuel confirmed himself to be our speaker at the Nelson Mandela lecture, hopefully on the 30th of November, on the topic of ethical leadership. So if you haven't booked for the 30th of November, you couldn't have booked yet, because Etienne and I haven't yet finalized all of that. But so there's more coming. The topical conversations will carry on. An amazing day, a brilliant team of AHI people who made it all possible. In conclusion, thank you very much, everyone.